Well, good afternoon, everyone. Let's say that again. Good afternoon, everyone. We are so happy to be here. Guess what? The streets are clear. And it's still cold, though. But we're very happy to be here. It's so good to see everyone again. It's been a while, and we've had many little opportunities with all of that ice and snow, and what a great day to say thank you, public safety. Thank you to our firemen, our policemen. Thank you, because what you did the last 2 weeks is what people really don't want to know about or experience, but you came through, and I know a lot was going on. As a matter of fact, I live on a street where I see the fire truck comes every day continuously, and I knew something was going on because I could hear the chains on the fire truck tires. And I'm saying, now that's serious when you hear the chains on the trucks. But it reminded me how blessed we are that we have the equipment to be able to serve our community even in treacherous times, and the firemen are safe. I didn't hear or see my policemen. I didn't hear you, probably because I was stuck in the house, in the back of the house, cooking like I had never cooked before, because it seemed like the right thing to do when you're stuck in the house. But I know you were doing good things. I kept getting the notices, and regrettably, we did have some tragedies, but you guys are always there when people really don't want you, but you're needed. And I thank you so much for that service. I also will give a shout out to our road crews that got the streets cleared as best they could, given those two main events, snow and ice first, lots of ice and sleet, frigid cold, and then more snow. So I want to thank them for the service that we provided to our residents, even though people complain grandly as if this is something that we should be able to do with excellence over and above when we don't have it happen for 30, 40 years. But anyway, we're going to open our meeting, and so Madam Clerk, would you call the roll?
Chairwoman Scipio.
Here.
Councilmember Hall.
Here.
Councilmember Joyner.
Present.
And Councilmember Andrew Bowen.
Here.
We have one.
I'm sorry, we're having some technical problems up here.
Okay, what do you want me to do?
We'll just tell you that I'll get this working as quickly as I can.
Okay, we can continue though? Okay. All right, we only have one thing on our consent agenda, which are our minutes. Does anyone have a problem with the minutes? If not, we'll vote.
Move to approve.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. We have 3 items on our general agenda. So we'll have the first item, please.
Item G1, ordinance amending Chapter 2, Article 3, Division 3, Section 2-108 of the City Code regarding police complaint filing and investigation procedures.
Sorry.
Hello there.
Hey, how you doing?
Very good, Captain Oliva. So you're going to tell us all about this particular item.
Yes, ma'am.
Well, please proceed.
Good afternoon, Chair Scipio, Mayor Allen, and members of the Public Safety Committee. My name is Charles Olivo, Captain with the Winston-Salem Police Department. Thank you for the opportunity to present this proposed amendment to Section 2-108, Division 3 of the City Code. Today's item is an update to the city ordinance governing how citizen complaints against police employees are received, investigated, and communicated. I want to be very clear. This amendment does not reduce oversight, does not limit citizen access, and does not eliminate the Citizen Police Review Board. Instead, it modernizes the ordinance by clearly outlining complaint intake, investigative responsibility, and notification processes while improving access efficiency and clarity for the public. There are three key changes to the ordinance. The first, the amendment expands and clarifies how a citizen may submit a complaint. Under the revised language, complaints may be submitted directly to the police department, through the city clerk's office, or online through the city's website. This improves accessibility and removes any unnecessary barriers for the public. Second, the amendment clarifies who investigates complaints. The updated language states that complaints are investigated by the Winston-Salem Police Department, rather than specifying only the Professional Standards Division, also known as PSD. This is an important distinction. It does not mean that PSD is removed from the process. PSD continues to handle serious, complex, or high liability cases and oversight. Third, the amendment modernizes how complainants are notified. Rather than requiring notification by letter only, the revised ordinance allows notifications by written correspondence, by phone, by electronic communications, or other appropriate means. This improves timeliness and responsiveness. Importantly, the complainant's right to appeal to the Citizens Police Review Board remains intact. The amendment also reflects the department's obligation to comply with North Carolina personnel confidentiality laws, which restrict the disclosure of internal investigative and personnel information. For that reason, the ordinance appropriately focused on notifying complainants of investigative outcomes and advising them of their appeal rights, rather than the automatic release of complaint documentation to the Citizen Police Review Board. This ensures transparency and accountability while remaining consistent with state law. And I want to be equally clear about what this amendment does not do. It does not eliminate investigations. It does not reduce transparency. It does not bypass the Citizen Police Review Board. Complaints are still investigated. Outcomes are still communicated. Appeals are still available. Oversight remains firmly in place. In summary, this amendment supports the city's strategic focus on efficient and effective core services. It aligns the ordinance with improved public access and supports the efficient and responsible use of departmental resources while maintaining appropriate oversight and accountability. I appreciate the committee's time and consideration. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Are there any questions?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you very much for this. I just have one question. So I've never had to do this. Is there an opportunity for this to be an anonymous complaint, or does it all have to be, you have to put your name to it so that we can get back to you?
Phenomenal question. So our current practice even today is you can provide anonymous information. This does not change that. If we have an anonymous complaint, whether it's external or internal, we will conduct the proper investigation.
Thank you very much.
Yes, sir.
Councilman?
Thank you. Thank you for
Yes,
your report and presentation. Has there ever been an official form that has been made available to citizens versus, there being different types of format of how one would form a complaint, whether it's handwritten or via email, so that I know that there are specific things that are noted of how to make a complaint and certain things to capture, but I wondered if you all had at least thought about creating a form if there's not one already available.
Yes, ma'am. So I will say that we currently do have a form, an official form to file an official complaint. Part of that process currently is that form, in order for it to be considered an official complaint that Professional Standards Division will investigate, that form must be signed by the citizen and notarized. Though we do have a form that we're going, this city ordinance, we're going to make a change to it internally. We're trying to make it more accessible, right? So they can file that form even down at the city's clerk's office, but it's not required for them to have it notarized. Or if they don't want to sign a form, they can call us on the phone and we will intake their complaint that way as well.
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Are all complaints investigated or some are not?
So all concerns are addressed. This will allow the police department to better utilize our resources. So of course, any concern that a citizen has, even if it's something such as an officer was rude to them on a traffic stop, to more egregious complaints, they will both be investigated. It's just who we're going. The police department will investigate it, and we will decide what's the best way to investigate that particular case, what resources we're going to use for that particular complaint, depending on what it is.
And give us a little understanding of how many complaints do we get over whatever period of time you want to choose?
Okay, let me see here, because I think I may have that in here. Bear with me, I have it on my email, so
Sure.
give me 1 second. Thank you. Okay, so let's see here. Oh, well, we'll see. There we go. Kind of. All right, we'll make it work. Thank you. So, citizen complaints, for example, currently, for the year of 2025, we had a total of 6 citizen complaints. 6 official citizen complaints. Within those complaints, however, there may be multiple different rules of conduct violations. So a citizen may come down and file one official complaint. One citizen may come down and do that, but there may be 6 different possible violations within that complaint. But as far as how many complaints, there were 6 from the citizens for 2025, and internal, we had a total of about 34 internal complaints.
What does that mean?
So internal just meaning that these are complaints that were initiated within the police department. So supervisors conducting investigations internally. So for example, as a point of reference, let's say an officer is involved in a car accident. That's a very common one. And in fact, that's usually the #1 thing as far as sustained complaints that we have in a department. So if an employee is involved in a car accident and it's deemed to be a preventable accident, the supervisor, the chain of command for that employee will conduct that investigation. And if they're sustained on it, that would count as an internal complaint that they've investigated.
Okay. And are all complaints answered in writing to whoever's making that complaint?
So currently, the complaints that are filed, right, the ones that they come in and fill out that form that I was telling you all about that gets notarized, they do currently get a letter that comes from the police department informing them of the status of their investigation. If there are other matters that are not official complaints, so for example, someone calls and says, an officer was rude to me, but I don't want to file an official complaint, I just want that matter addressed, they will not receive a letter. That is usually phone communication, a supervisor, making sure that the citizen knows, hey, we're addressing this concern.
Any other questions, concerns? Okay, Councilmember.
Thank you. And so as a follow-up to that, before, if it's a phone call and you're doing intake that way, and someone wants to communicate a concern,
Yes, ma'am.
then before the end of the call, and they don't necessarily want to file an official complaint, then the response will be, your concern will be addressed. But the onus is on, and the responsibility is on the person calling to ensure that they do an official complaint to get something in writing.
When you're saying the person, so the citizen,
Correct.
I'm sorry, ask the question one more, I want to make sure I'm
Okay.
understanding correctly.
So Councilmember Scipio was saying, the response was all concerns are addressed. And we know that there are a couple of different ways that people can make a complaint, even if they decide to pick up the phone and call, and intake can be done that way. If someone calls in what I'm calling a concern, because it won't be noted as an official complaint, right? Unless they give their name and want an official follow-up, right?
Yes, ma'am. Currently. Yes, ma'am.
Currently, but if they want to address a concern that an officer was rude to them, they have officer's name, they will not know that a supervisor or someone officially followed up to address said concern unless they do file an official
Oh, I see.
complaint.
I'm understanding now. No, ma'am. So again, our practice and the way we train our supervisors is we are to talk to them and let them know. Look, it would be a follow-up conversation, a phone conversation that they would have with them to let them know. Now, there are times that citizens say, I don't want a phone call, a follow-up phone call. I just want you to address the officer was speeding, right? Or the employee was speeding. I don't need a phone call back. But if they request a phone call, then a supervisor will let them know, follow up with them and let them know it's been addressed.
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Are there any other questions, committee members? What's your disposition on this particular item?
Move to approve.
I second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Great. We'll go to G2. Thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate y'all.
Item G2, resolution approving a contract for towing management and vehicle management solutions and adjusting fees.
Good afternoon, Chair Scipio,
Good afternoon.
Mayor, members of council. I'm back before you again today to discuss the vehicle management system that we talked about for providing tow services for the police department and to our citizens. This was an item that has previously been before this council and as it went to city council, was pulled, and for further discussion with the tow companies. So today I have Alan from VMS. And I have a member of the tow board with us as well. We had that follow-up meeting with them to address all concerns. Jerry can speak to those concerns if you would like to know the full detail of it. But after we met with all 14 members that are currently towing vehicles for the police department in the city right now, everyone is in agreement that this is the path that we would like to move forward with. This will be more efficient. It will reduce the time of officers and citizens on the side of the road, and it also allows for the tow companies to have some concerns that they had that we weren't aware of, that when we had this meeting we found out about, to make our process more efficient. Additionally, this will also allow our citizens the ability to locate their vehicle by the tow company it was towed faster and more efficiently through the internet portal that it'll have access to. So I'd be happy to take any questions. We do have a letter of support now from all 14 members of the tow committee that's working with us now. So I'll answer any questions, or if you have any questions for the gentleman that took the time to be here with us today.
Does anyone have any concerns? Okay. Councilmember Joyner?
Thank you, Chair. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
I have a couple of questions. Cars involved in an accident that
Yes.
aren't insured, at I believe it's $35 that's collected at the end of the month per car that's towed.
Yes.
Who pays that?
So that would be part of the overarching tow fee. The tow fee currently sits at $175. The total fee would now be going to $279. The big part of that, $50 of that, is because we have not done a tow fee increase for our tow companies since 2019. So trying to get them to where they're actually able to be somewhat profitable from this. Then $35 for that. There's a $10 fee that goes to the city as well. So to make sure that the tow companies are being able to make some sort of profit out of this, a vehicle that is uninsured, involved in a wreck that the police department contacts and calls a next out wrecker for, that would be incumbent upon that citizen to pay that fee.
And the vehicles that are not picked up by the owner, who would then pay that fee to VMS?
So that fee, and I'll let Alan explain that part of it a little bit
Yeah,
better
on
too.
vehicles that are not redeemed at the participating record company locations, those record companies would auction those vehicles, and we don't apply any fees to those when it goes to a public auction or a scrap auction.
So at the end of the month, when this fee for all tows, all calls are placed, those vehicle costs will be set aside, and so that wrecker would not have to pay that.
The record companies will pay $35 for every dispatch request, other than breakdowns, roadside assist, abandoned vehicles. There's a list where we don't nickel and dime and apply that. And then if I'm the record company and I do release a vehicle, a crash or a enforcement tow, DUI, something of that nature, and I'm not insured, then the vehicle owner would pay that, and that's a $54 administrative fee passed on to the vehicle owner.
I'm just trying to be clear that the wrecker, I understand there are 14 now, but, you know, as time goes by, one wrecker is replaced by another wrecker who didn't agree to this. I want to make sure that the wreckers are not getting stuck $35 per, that cars that didn't get picked up, didn't get whatever. And that could be $350 at the end of the month, or that could be $3,500. $350 may or may not totally impact somebody, but $3,500 could possibly, and the gentleman may be able to speak clearer to that for me. I don't know.
Thank you. The process, by having something in place already where we're able to, if a vehicle doesn't get picked up by an owner or an insurance company, by having the process of filing the papers through the state and DMV, be able to auction it off, that usually absorbs that money that's being paid out. And so moving forward, if other companies were to come on, I mean, really, this avenue gives us a great opportunity for them to be able to become more profitable. As I said, it seems like a big number, but as the Chief of Police just said, I mean, and we know through the PD, these raises have not been in 2019, so the number looks big just because of the time frame, just trying to get it caught up, because now it's just basically in line with what other state towing companies and cities are charging for the tow. And so nothing's out of line. And it does give the opportunity where it's going to take some paperwork. The towing companies will have to make sure they do all their paperwork and get it in. Now, if you let there and don't get your paperwork in and let it linger, yeah, you're going to be in a bad position as far as the end of the month. But if you do your job, do what you're supposed to do, it should work out just fine for the ones on rotation now and ones coming on. Thank you.
Thank you.
Before we move forward, can you give us a 2-minute overview of this new program?
Sure. So you may do it, or you want to do it?
Fine.
Okay. So essentially, I'll give you 1 minute on what it looks like now, and 1 minute on how it'll move forward. So currently, if we have officers that are dispatched to a traffic accident, they arrive on scene, they deem a vehicle is not drivable and needs to be towed away. The citizen does not have contact with the wrecker company, and they would like for the police department to reach out to a wrecker company to have their vehicle towed. That officer then has to go to a different radio channel. They have to contact our communications. That communications operator may be helping another officer. They may be on a 911 call, inputting a call for service that's a 911 life-saving emergency, or they could be backed up, and sometimes it is very frequent for our officer to say, stand by, you're third in line. That means there could be other people that are wanting a wrecker, having warrant checks run, whatever the case may be. So now that's when our clock begins of how long it takes to get a wrecker dispatched. Once they are accepted in line, we give a vehicle description. Our communications operator then makes phone contact with whoever is the next up on the tow list, so the top of the order. They go to the tow list. They'll reach out to that wrecker company. The wrecker company will say, yes, we'll accept the tow, or no, we don't have a wrecker available. They then have to reach out to a second call. At that point, the wrecker company would be dispatched. The communications operator goes back to the officer, tells the officer, this is the tow company that's coming, and then they have 30 minutes to respond. The new system, essentially the officer can use their telephone, an app on their phone or their in-car computer, and they can automatically go in. It automatically tells them who's the next up wrecker service, and that wrecker is dispatched immediately. No more time with communications, taking them away from answering 911 calls or not helping other officers with warrant services or any or that sort. And then they still have the 30-minute time frame, but you've cut all the additional time out. And what we're seeing nationwide from their software is that they're seeing a dramatic cut in the amount of time it is taking to get a wrecker actually on site to tow that vehicle and clear the roadway up. So that would be the change in the process. Did I miss anything?
I don't think so. I mean, the city's already invested in iPhones for the traffic unit, and they have the MDTs on board all the patrol vehicles, so they can quickly enter a tow request. And if you've used Uber before, it'll be that same effect for an officer. I've heard it described, they're in a kill zone, heads on a swivel, seconds count, waiting for that tow truck to arrive. And we're going to expedite that process hopefully by 20 minutes like we've done in 60 plus other cities around the nation. So it's a game changer for the men and women in uniform, for our first responders working up what's called a struck by happens. We've all seen the dash cam videos. Horrendous things happen. Again, let's clear those roads and get traffic moving in and keep citizens and first responders and officers safe.
Thank you. I was so privileged to be able to sit in with the tow truck meeting, and this is an interesting new technology that we are going to embark on, hopefully, as a community, because it makes the police department much more efficient, but it also helps our wonderful tow truck drivers because they're going to be monitored. They'll know where to go. They don't have to worry about is somebody getting it out of turn if they're not in the queue. It just brings them up to date also in providing their service. And I forgot to think about this until I saw it on the news, but our tow truck companies were very, very busy over the last several weeks. And being there, trying to get to the sites, getting vehicles out of all kinds of conditions that were clogging up our roads. So I really look forward to this becoming part of our toolkit. Are there any other concerns? Ms. Councilmember Clark, you got a personal story.
I happened to use your services last weekend. I was in a major accident. There were 3 wreckers called. They were there quickly. I was impressed, I have State Farm, that when I called State Farm with information, the wrecker companies were in their system. It's even coordinated down to that level. I simply gave the first name and she typed it in, and she's, yeah, they're at such and such address. I said, yeah, that's them. I would like to give a plug to our police department, fire department, and EMS that all responded appropriately. 3 blocks down, and I could see it was a house fire. Somebody used a propane torch to melt the ice on their back steps and caught their house on fire, which probably shouldn't do, but anyway. So Country Club Road, you kept everyone busy there for a while, but everybody did a great job, but I was impressed with the wrecker services, particularly coordination all the way down to the insurance companies. And once the insurance takes over, by the way, they then move the car from the wrecker's place to wherever their storage lot is. And that was fairly automated too, that the wrecker companies had all that information as well in their system. So all went very well. And I'm glad to hear that everyone seems to be in agreement with this now. I've been concerned, has been addressed, what happens when nobody picks the car up. But I always thought that even a wrecked car is worth a couple $100 just to steal. Is that still about true? $200-300?
Yeah, it goes price of metal.
Yeah.
That's what's going to be dictated. Yeah, you can always, unless it's an extreme case of a recovery where there's a lot of intense labor to get it out, and most of the time you can recover your fees.
At least your fees, yeah. Okay.
You're not going to get rich on it, but you can recover your fees.
Yeah. Okay, thank you, sir.
Thank you very much. Committee members, what is your pleasure on G2?
Move to approve.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
And so G2 will go forward. Now we will hear from our G3, our wonderful fire department.
Item G3, Winston-Salem Fire Department 2025 Annual Report.
All yours, Chief.
Thank you, ma'am. Good afternoon. Madam Chair, Mr. Mayor, members of the committee and council. Got my phone in the wrong place when I stood up. Wanted to take a few minutes and present our 2025 annual report to you this afternoon. I'm joined by Assistant Chief of Operations Andrew Gray, Assistant Chief of Logistics Darryl Sawyer, and Assistant Chief of Training Patrick Grubbs, who all had a big role to play in getting this report put together. And I'm just going to kind of go through. You going to drive for us, Madam Clerk? Thank you. I'm going to start on page 3. I'm just going to point out 10 or 12 things to you that I think are worthy of stopping and talking about in the report. On page 3, you'll see there we have a page dedicated to the Bear team. It's a relatively new program for us, but they continue to do good work in the community. They are answering about 6 requests for service a day. When you think about what their on-scene time is, and you figure in, bathroom breaks and meals and that sort of thing, they're pretty busy. If they were an engine company, and if we include their follow-up calls, which adds about 10% of their call volume, where they have an initial contact with the client, and then they go back to make sure services have been connected or prescriptions have been filled. The Bear team they cast a wide net in terms of dealing with behavioral health crises in the community. So if you add those calls back, which are not reflected in the call volume in this report, they would be our 5th busiest engine in the city. So it's pretty steady. You'll see there at bottom of page 3, some advertising. You see a billboard and then that banner at the bottom. I don't know if you happen to notice when the billboard was running, or if you've seen one of the transit buses going around town that has the Bear logo on the side of it. So Director Ryan has stepped up her effort in making sure that the community is aware that Bear services are available. Also, speaking of Director Ryan, I don't know if you noticed last week the governor signed an executive order related to mental and behavioral health. And if you look closely in that photograph, Director Ryan was there with him at the governor's mansion when he signed that executive order. I'm going to move to page 4, Madam Clerk. The Fire and Life Safety Branch, we're talking about calendar year 2025 now, remember. They added 3 new positions, inspectors. We were running about a 3,000 inspection backlog, and they have cut into that by about 33% over the past year, drawing down that backlog. That also allowed us to do what most of our peers did years ago, was put a fire investigator on shift. So now when a fire of any nature, dumpster fire, grass fire, house fire, high-rise fire, whatever it is, a fire investigator is attached to that resource assignment, and by doing that, our investigators now have a closure rate that is about 3 times what the national average is, and they have reduced the number of undetermined fires. So it is not uncommon, because of the damage that occurs at a fire, for an investigator just not to be able to say what caused the fire with something that we could stand on in court. We have reduced that number of undetermineds from 43% to 11%, which I think is remarkable, and that's by having those investigators
on shift, and we're not relying on, a company officer to do an investigation. They're not trained to do investigations, or waiting for an investigator to come through an on-call rotation. And then you will see there, kind of at the bottom, you'll see some smoke alarm installation, a picture there, collaboration with the Red Cross. The Fire and Life Safety Branch is where the risk reduction specialist lives, and she keeps us busy at, various community activities, Carolina Classic Fair, Safe Kids, Child Protective Safety Seat inspections, Youth Fire Setter programs, et cetera. I'm going to move to page 5. If you all have any questions as we go through, please stop me. Logistics branch on page 5, you will see there, particularly that tractor drawn aerial that's in that top photo. When we wrote the specifications for that truck, I remember everybody was sitting in the room wearing masks. I mean, we are finally starting to take delivery of some apparatus that have been on order for years. We got into some supply chain issues during COVID, and then, of course, many municipalities spent ARPA money buying fire trucks, which just spiked the demand like the industry had never seen. And we're not talking about building Thunderbirds and Accords, I mean, you just don't add production lines to build fire trucks. So those delivery times are starting to come down. So this new ladder truck here is in service on Palmer Lane. There's also the kind of middle picture to the right side there. That new ladder is in service on Glen High Road. You'll remember we turned a truck over and totaled it last December of 24. So this is the replacement to that. Also, a new engine 16 is here for Polk Road. It's not in service yet, but soon will be. And then the next thing that we'll take delivery of in a month or so is a replacement for ladder 14, Shadowline East. Also, you'll see there in the bottom left corner, 2 hybrid battalion chief vehicles. We are continuing to convert, as is appropriate, our light vehicle fleet to hybrids. I'm going to move.
Chief Mayor.
Ma'am.
Sorry, you asked if we could do questions. I don't want you to go too far, but the truck that turned over in 24, it seems like you had mentioned something about the possibility of maybe doing some sort of, not necessarily a trade with Greensboro, but I think that there was where we could get at least a deal to be able to use maybe one of their trucks. Is this that? Or?
No, ma'am. This truck right here is brand new to us. When we turned that truck over, after we found out everybody was okay, other than a hurt wrist and some hurt feelings, the major loss when that fire truck was totaled was not that truck as a frontline unit, because the replacement had been ordered. The loss when we turned that truck over and totaled it was we were not going to have that truck to go into the reserve fleet, which we need when trucks are broken down. They need oil. They need, an oil change, new tires, have to go for service, et cetera. You just don't leave a fire station open until that truck comes back. We put a reserve truck in place until the frontline unit comes back from whatever work is being done. So that was the big loss. So we were able to buy a truck that was going out of Greensboro's fleet and put it in our fleet to replace that reserve. But good memory.
I tried to. Thanks.
Last Monday, we had a part-time logistics technician start in the logistics branch. So hopefully, having somebody to run parts and, take turnout gear for repair and do all of those sorts of things, I think it's really going to be a big help in that branch of the fire department. And then I will tell you just what kind of people we have working for us. So you talked about hearing the chains on the fire trucks. So one of the issues we experienced in the past 2 weeks is the travel roads from the fire stations to the neighborhoods were clear. 80% of our calls are residential in nature. Doesn't matter what it is, fire, medical, public service. So we were wearing out chains on the primary roads getting to the neighborhood roads. And And we keep multiple sets of chains for all the apparatus, but we were wearing through them and they were breaking on the clear roads where the asphalt and clear concrete was chewing them up. So we'll buy some more chains. Well, we couldn't buy any chains because when the utilities ramped up for the first ice event that turned out to be a dud, they bought up all the chains by the pallet loads, we understand, from the chain suppliers. So our folks at the shop sourced the raw materials, and they were actually building chains at our apparatus maintenance facility to keep our trucks on the road. So it's important to recognize that kind of dedication from our folks all across the organization, but particularly in our apparatus maintenance shop. Those guys really do go out of the way to make sure that the big trucks with the red paint and chrome are staying on the roads. So I just thought that bared mentioning. I'm going to move to page 10, Madam Clerk. And talk about Haas Alert. This is just in here for a point of information. Haas Alert is a transmitter that is on fire apparatus. So if you're running Waze or Maps, for example, as a routing tool on your phone, I'm sure everybody has noticed that you get alerts that say, emergency vehicle ahead, that sort of thing. So that alert for us gets prompted through Haas Alert. So Haas Alert has a device mounted on the fire truck. When the warning lights are operating, that Haas Alert comes on and it is transmitting, and that's where you see emergency vehicle ahead. And you can see some of the statistics there about what we have, the number of alerts that have been sent since we started putting these on in 2022. We've had to add them to apparatus thus far. The Sutphen apparatus does not come with these. We switched to Pierce about 2 years ago, and the Haas Alert system comes as standard equipment on Pierce fire apparatus. So as we continue to take delivery of more Pierce apparatus, at some point, in the next 4 or 5 years, everything in the fleet will have these Haas Alert transmitters on them. One thing that's not reflected in the data on what you're looking at is Haas Alert sends responder to responder alerts too. So a lot of apparatus crashes happen when two fire trucks, ambulances, police cars, whatever they are approaching the same intersection from different directions, and they crash at the intersection. So when Haas Alert sees that two apparatus approaching from opposite directions, it sends alerts to each apparatus to say, hey, you've got something else coming from another direction. And just last year, that happened 700 times. So when you think about the fact there's only 6 of these in service, and they alerted one another 700 times, that gives you some idea of how much our fire trucks are on the road. Our fire trucks are on the road responding about 45,000 times a year. I'm going to move to page 11 now and mention that call volume, annual call volume that you see there, total responses in that top line, down about 14%. Now, last year when I was presenting, that number was up 80% coming out of COVID. It is down now, down 14% from last year, due in large part to work from our operations branch, even up to the assistant city manager, deputy county manager level, working with the medical director to pull down our medical call volume, and that is critically important. Medical calls are not our primary responsibility. That is Forsyth County's primary responsibility. We respond as a complement to them, but if you get so bogged down in medical call response, you're not available for fires and rescues, and that is our primary responsibility. So it is critically important to us to make sure that we just do not become overwhelmed with the number of medical calls we are answering. Ma'am.
Are all of our firefighters trained paramedics? I know they do some paramedic training for the graduation, but are they legitimately all paramedics?
They are trained as EMTs, emergency medical technicians. The paramedic level service for us in the system where we operate, the juice would not be worth the squeeze when you talk about the facilities and the instructors required to maintain that level of certification. So we live at the EMT level, and you get paramedic level response from Forsyth County.
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am. You see there, property loss and saved. This is, so property loss is a 33% reduction from last year. Property saved is double what it was last year. Not statistics to get terribly excited about, because, you know, one incident in a university building or a hospital building or something that really has high value can push those numbers really dramatically one way or the other. So I just wanted to point out the differences if you happen to look back at the 2024 numbers, but I don't get real excited about that just because there's so much variability in how those numbers are derived. Fire fatalities are down from last year, from 2024. We had 5 in 2024, 2 in 2025. Civilian fire injuries and firefighter injuries are up. And I realize this is only 2 years of data, but that follows what we are seeing across the industry is increased firefighter and civilian injuries because fires burn faster and they burn hotter today than they did 30 years ago. And we're really coming into the age where housing stock built starting in about 1990 is now getting into 30 or 35 years old, and that's really when we started with open floor plans and what we know in the business is lightweight engineered construction. That is the use of truss construction and a geographic design as a substitute for mass in building materials. So, you know, 500 years ago when they built a building, they didn't know what it'd take to hang it, you hold it up. They made, they had a post this big around. Well, that building would stand up forever under fire. Now, you know, they've got a computer helping them, and they figured out that they can put it on a 2x4, and that's what they do. And a 2x4 doesn't stand up very well under fire. And we are seeing those houses now that started being built in the early 90s get some age on them, and that is one of the things that is driving firefighter and civilian injuries as we have fires in those lightweight constructed houses more and more frequently. On page 12, I just wanted to give some kudos to the training branch. Last year, they rolled out for the first time a ladder company operations class, officer development school. They redesigned the job readiness, physical ability tests. We had since 2017, we had been tied to the facility at King, the fire training facility at King. Chief Grubbs and his staff, utilizing the assistance of a consultant, have now built a course that is certified is not the right word. What's it? Validated, thank you. That's why I take my bodyguards everywhere I go. So it is a validated course, and it can be loaded in the back of an enclosed trailer, and it is designed to be set up and operated in the space of an apparatus bay in a station. So it's portable, and we can move it around, and folks can practice with it. They have 2 of them built now with plans to build additional ones so that we can at least have 4 circulating around the city so that our folks can stay ready for that annual physical ability test and stay in better shape. We also, if you'll remember, about $4.5 million you appropriated last year to purchase new self-contained breathing apparatus. That is a new product from Scott. About 4,000 of those units are in service around the country, including hundreds of them for the Fire Department of New York. You know, everybody thinks about big fire department, they think about Fire Department of New York. When those units were delivered here, our training folks put them through their paces with the recruit class that was running, and discovered a flaw in the mechanism that latches the bottle to the back frame on those SCBAs. So the folks from Scott came, Chief Grubbs and his staff showed Scott what was happening with those units. And so now the largest manufacturer of self-contained breathing apparatus in the world is coming right here to little old Winston-Salem to test their product to see if they have designed an acceptable solution to that problem that we identified with that bottleneck. So again, I think it's important to recognize the good work that our folks are doing and how thorough they are.
And will we get a break on the cost of those? They're going to give us some donations?
You'll be glad to know that we spent about, I don't know, 20 or 25% less than what was appropriated for those units because we bought so many of them. But they have not started handing out any coupons yet. No.
Okay, let's just press them for that. We can help. We need a little help.
The other thing the training branch did, particularly in 2022 and 2023, but it paid off last year, was an improvement in the way they kept training records, which was one of the key points that allowed us to attain our ISO 1 rating last year. And that segues me into that page on the ISO rating on page 15. So the Winston-Salem Fire Department, because it is accredited and carries that ISO 1 rating, represents less than 0.5% of all fire departments in America. And then the last thing for me, Madam Chair, and I appreciate your patience, starting on page 16 and 17, you'll see some photographs there of our special teams. And we get questions sometimes, why are we deploying water rescue assets to Kentucky or to Asheville or to Jones County or wherever that may be? But, the answer to that question is because when we have events like we had over the past 2 weeks, or we have the microburst that we had on Akron Avenue back in July, Akron Drive back in July, we have assets here in terms of equipment and training that we otherwise would not have. Those assets have come from the state, and we likely would otherwise not be in a position to be able to afford those assets. And our folks get training and experience that they otherwise would not get, that when you go into events like that, puts us in a much stronger position to be able to respond and manage those incidents. And then the last thing, as you kind of scroll through the end there, is just some recognition of our folks who are out there winning awards, earning scholarships. These 3 pictures here represent about $25,000 in scholarships from the State Firefighters Association. So proud of our folks for winning those. And then I mentioned earlier about how our risk reduction specialist and public information officer, Ms. Childress, keep us active out in the community. You can just see some photos from some of those activities that we do throughout the year. That's all from me, Madam Chair. Again, I appreciate the patience. I'll take any questions anybody has.
Chief, thank you for this excellent report. I think sometimes we take excellence for granted in our city, with excellence that some employees give, and the fire department's one of those, along with our police department. And I celebrate you guys all the time because you do magnificent work. You're there when we need you, even when we don't know that we need you. You come out, you do a great job. And yes, some people are disappointed because they're very critical, but they don't know all of what you go through. And I'm so pleased that our city council, over the years, at least since I've been on it, has seen the need to invest in our public safety departments and give you the equipment that you need, and the kind of lovely kinds of stuff. I love those trucks. I love to see our water rescue units. I want our residents to know that their tax money is...
Oh, thank you very much. That your tax money is really well spent when it comes to public safety. And we are, for a city our size, we have resources that we call on to serve our community well. And we have great staff that's creative, and they keep bringing us new things for us to stay on top of our public safety. When I'm at the National Leagues of Cities and I'm talking to others, I feel so blessed that Winston-Salem has taken the lead in many things in making sure that our departments are well-equipped. And that's because we have great leadership and we have great staff and we have great people doing that job that many of us can't even think about doing and wouldn't want to. So I celebrate you and I thank you for this report. I think that people, I'm assuming we can go online on our website and get this report. Is that right?
It will be. It is not on our.
It's not there
We always
yet?
like to show you all that stuff before it gets out for public dissemination, but it will be on our website, yes.
And I do encourage people to get it and look at it and see the pictures and see your work in action and our tax dollars in actions. Any concerns, questions? Oh, Scott, please go ahead.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I have a few. I was excited to see Ms. Ryan in the news last week when the governor signed his.
I didn't even see her back there. I apologize for missing her during my introductions.
No worries.
That's what you get for sitting in the corner.
But I saw her picture. I thought I saw you in the picture. So I was really excited to see the governor sign that executive order around behavioral health, and so I'm really excited to see how that's going to impact us here. I would say over the past week or so, I've really appreciated the social media push for hiring new firefighters. It's one, I think it's just good marketing, but it's also just really funny to see the firefighters and doing these things. But also just to point out the amazing work that you all have done. Just a moment for me to say the same thing again and again. I'm looking forward to seeing what the pay study does so we can look at putting more money in the pockets of our firefighters. So thank you.
Thank you.
Council member?
Thank you, Chair Scipio. I echo some of the comments that Council Member Andrew Bowen just mentioned. I also want to give kudos to social media. I also follow you all, Chief Penn. I follow y'all on social media too. But it has been really cool to see. I will also point out that I was really glad that there was a section in here about the training, because we've talked about all the training that folks in fire service do throughout the year, where it's not just reporting to a fire station or responding to a call, but it's those trainings that maybe we don't see or hear about often. And so I was glad that there was a particular section that was dedicated to that in this report. Going back to the fire and life safety branch, you talked about there was a good number of numbers and statistics here about how many smoke alarms were installed. I know that that's a free service. I want to say it's the fire suppression apparatus that's put underneath the stove or...
Stovetop, well, there are several brands. Stovetop Fire Stop is probably the one that is best known.
Okay. Those sorts of things. Could you tell the public the best way, if they are interested in having something like that done at their home, or if they would like, for a matter of public education and they want someone from fire service to come to their event or to talk to some children and community, is the best way for them to do that to just call 911, or is that to go online?
Don't do that.
Don't do that. So could you let folks know the best way to do that if they want the fire department to maybe show up and educate them?
Yes, ma'am. So the best way to do it is to go to our website, which is from the city's website. You know, you can link to our website through the departments, which is up at the top banner. That's the best way. But we know that some folks still, don't like internet stuff, don't have computers, whatever, that's fine. So in the absence of being able to get to our website and fill out that form, the next best choice is 336-747-6935. 336-747-6935.
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
And maybe you ought to put that in your annual report somewhere, so it can,
Add that to the annual report next year. That's delegation.
very good example there. Is any other comments about, I did have a question, Chief. I was excited about the inspectors. You said you hired 3 new inspectors.
Yes, ma'am.
What's the training they must have? Are they certified? Have they gone through and gotten certified firefighter certificates? Or what's their criteria?
So some of them are certified firefighters. Some of them have come in, were hired in the operations branch to be firefighters and found that they had a passion for code enforcement, and they've moved over to the life safety branch. But they don't have to be certified firefighters to be inspectors. To be inspectors, they have to be certified as an inspector by the North Carolina Code Officials Qualification Board, which is the same certifying entity that certifies mechanical inspectors, electrical inspectors, plumbing inspectors. All of those certificates are overseen, I can't think of the right word I'm looking for, but by the Code Officials, North Carolina Code Officials Qualification Board.
Okay, didn't know that. Thank you so much. That's interesting.
And it is pretty rigorous. It is not uncommon. I don't know about the other disciplines, but for fire, it's not uncommon for somebody not to pass that state exam the first time. The North Carolina State Fire Code is an impressive document, and although it's designed as a reference document, and I think you can have it with you at the test. You could when I took it, but it is still a lot to find what you're looking for and interpret what the code says.
Great. Well, thank you, Chief. Any other questions, concerns for the Chief and this wonderful annual report? Thank you so much, Chief.
Yes, ma'am. We appreciate you all's attention and support.
Thank you. Council members, Mr. Mayor, thank you for being with us. Mr. Clark, thank you for being with us today. And at this point, we've completed our agenda for the day. So with that, we will adjourn the Public Safety Committee meeting. Thank you.